going to be about my beloved 14060 Submariner. We did a review comparison with this with the Speedmaster a little while ago. Check out that video. It's Omega Speedy versus the Rolex. And in that video, I mentioned that the Speedmaster won my heart. But now I think that shifted a little bit towards the Submariner. And I actually don't own the Speedmaster anymore. I sold it to a good friend of mine. So that should speak volumes. Although I still highly recommend the Speedmaster. Anyways, so I kind of wanted to link this to a blog article I wrote on properlywound.com. And the title, as you guys will see, it's linked in the description, is 3 Things My Rolex Submariner Taught Me About Collecting. So if you guys remember, or if you guys were around for Properly Wound, formerly Clock, Stock, and Barrel, we did a video way back when, in the early days, about my Rolex Explorer 14060, which is this guy, which was my first Rolex. And I barely wear this thing anymore, and this pretty much gets all the wrist time, and I'm actually probably going to be selling this to a good friend of mine who actually bought the Speedmaster as well. But I talked about how the Submariner is a little too cliche, especially living in Manhattan here. You see the Submariner on every single block. It just kind of gets annoying. You see a Datejust, a Sub, Datejust, Sub. That's pretty much all people wear here. Nothing really cool. You barely see. I saw a Breguet Type 20 for the very first time in 18 months of living in Manhattan this week, you know. So anyways, that was sort of my thought process, was everyone has a Sub. And I kind of grew into the Sub, if that makes sense. At first, I didn't appreciate it for what it was. And now I definitely do appreciate sort of the provenance and the history and sort of the iconic status of the Submariner. My first point in the blog was buying is not always about value and bang per buck. So what do I mean when I say value and bang per buck? So I'm sure you guys have heard the term value proposition coined in a lot of different blogs and videos in every possible type of watch publication out there. This is something that I would consider a value proper bang per buck. Something like this, which is a Seiko Monster SRP. Now these prices are exploding, but when you could get these for about 200 bucks, they were great value props. Something like a Hamilton Khaki King with a base ETA movement for under $500, under 300 used. Something like an Oris Aquis, which has, I think, punches way above its weight and has the finishing and overall details of a watch that's worth about, I don't know, $3,000–4,000 retail that you can get for about $1,000 on the used market. That's what I say, or that's what I think when I say value and bang per buck. So early on in my collecting career, I would always opt for bang per buck. That was the #1 priority for me. What can I get that packs a huge punch in terms of value? So as I've sort of gone through the collecting journey, that's taken a little bit of a back seat because subjectively this Rolex Explorer does not pack a lot of value. These go for a little over $4 grand now. Even some of the newer 14060Ms go for 5 and some change. I've even seen 6 and some change. For a basic utilitarian movement, caliber 3000 and a 3-hander with a basic steel case and a unidirectional bezel, this is extremely overpriced. But, you know, as I've sort of gone through my collecting journey, it's not always just about the value. And you could say that this has a lot of value because it's only going to be appreciating in the future. I can guarantee that this Rolex is not going to lose value in the next decade, 5 years, 2 decades, or anything like that. It's only going to climb. But in terms of tech specs, it definitely is overpriced for what it is. But my point in the blog was that now as a collector, I sort of turn to history and provenance and iconic status rather than just looking for bang per buck. And of course, I still own pieces that have a lot of bang per buck, just like this monster right here. But history and provenance are a big part of me selecting my next piece. So my next point is the Rolex appreciation bell curve. So I have a little picture of that in the blog, which I'll just show you guys right here. So when you first start out in watch collecting, you think Rolex is super cool. It's the Swiss watch to own. And then when you sort of get into watches a little bit, you think Rolex is boring and predictable. Everyone has a Submariner, everyone has a Datejust, everyone talks about them. You know, if you're in the know, you start to like pieces like Patek and Vacheron and maybe an AP even, or like an FP Journe or a Laurent Ferrier. You sort of get into these super small micro boutique brands, and Rolex takes a back seat and you realize there's so much more out there. And then after a little while, you kind of come back around and appreciate Rolex for their history and what they've done in the past, and you start to think Rolex is cool again. So I definitely had that stage where I thought everyone has a Submariner, why the hell would I want a Submariner? But the Sub is an icon for a reason. So my second point about this Rolex appreciation bell curve, it sort of can apply to a lot of different watches. Maybe even Grand Seiko too. When you sort of get into watches, you think Grand Seiko is just a Seiko, it's overpriced, but then later on you start to really appreciate the technology and the culture and the watchmaking that goes behind them, the technology within spring drive, etc. So this bell curve can apply to a lot of different watches, or watch brands and types of watches within the watch universe. And then my third point is finding the perfect watch helps you define your roadmap, and you can identify future keepers. So I've literally been wearing this piece almost every single freaking day. For me, it's absolutely perfect. It's 40 millimeters. It's super versatile. I can wear it on a metal band, which I don't have because I'm not a huge fan of them, or a leather strap like this Boulang that I have, or a NATO strap. So to me, this is sort of the perfect watch in every way. When I look down at it, I'm super happy and excited to see that I have a Rolex Sub. It's super versatile, like I said, and it sort of eliminates some of your future potential acquisition or watches on your acquisition list, because it really makes you think long and hard about what watches that you would actually wear that might dethrone this for a little while. So like I said, I've been wearing this every single day. If I were to add a watch that I don't really care that much about, that I think is kind of cool, let's say maybe like a Seamaster Professional Ceramic or something like that, then I probably wouldn't wear it that much, because it would be competing against the Submariner, and the Submariner would probably win 8 out of 10 times. So it sort of makes you take a step back and really think about what your next piece is going to be. So I've taken a back seat and have been really trying to roadmap my collection. If you guys saw, I did a road mapping blog as well. Check that out. We'll link that in the description. But yeah, it sort of made me much more nitpicky as to what my next piece is going to be. So anyways, guys, those are the 3 things the Rolex Sub taught me about collecting. And for you guys, maybe it wasn't necessarily the Rolex Submariner. Maybe it was a Nomos or an Oris Aquis that you purchased, or, it really could be anything that sort of opened your eyes to some of the points that I referenced in the article. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you hate the Sub, if you think it's a basic bitch watch, if you only like watches that are a little bit more unique, or maybe you can understand why this or a Speedmaster or a Seamaster are icons and why everyone owns them. And as always, follow us at Properly Wound on Instagram and the Properly Wound Facebook page. And until the next review, I will see you guys later.